Welcome back, or welcome for the first time if you're new here to the Fiercely Fulfilled Feminine YouTube channel. Yes, yes, yes. Today we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about Kundalini energy. What is it? What's its purpose? What's its role specifically when we talk about Hieros, Gamos, the twin flame journey, spiritual ascension, divine union? What does, especially on the twin flame ascension journey, what does a divine counterpart that I like to call the divine connection have to do with a Kundalini awakening? And finally, what is sacred union? Welcome here or welcome back. My name is Ann Hayes, aka Mama G, a sacred sexuality and feminine sovereignty mentor who empowers purpose driven twin flames to alchemize sexual trauma into embodied power with my sacred sexuality reclamation method so that you can experience true intimacy, lasting fulfillment, and radiant feminine sovereignty. Now, before I continue, I'd like to invite you, because this is definitely connected and related to a 40-day sexual shame detox series that I am currently offering, completely complimentary, right here on YouTube. There is an introductory video along with, right now I'm on day 8. We're going all the way to 40 days. Really, really powerful stuff where I introduce a technique known as tantric mirror work to literally shed just layers and layers and layers of shame due especially to sexual trauma so that you feel lighter and you can start to elevate and enjoy the type of life that you truly desire in every way, in every area. Okay, so that link is going to be in the description, that introductory video. Like I said, jump right in. It's all connected. Now, without further ado, let's start by talking about Kundalini energy. Whether you're new to the journey or you've been on the journey for a bit, sometimes there can still be, like it was for me, a little bit confusion around what is this whole Kundalini thing? What is the Kundalini activation? What is its purpose and what is it supposed to do? Okay, so I personally work with the Kundalini energy. I spend a great deal working with that energy, specifically with my clients and for myself, because it is the tool that we've been given, especially on a twin flame ascension journey, to use for transformation and elevation. So, what is it? Okay. Kundalini energy is sexual energy. It's sexual energy in its rawest, purest form. It doesn't come from, okay, it comes down. And I'm doing this, and yet we're talking about frequency, so it's not really this. Okay, yet we are in the 3D. So for all intents and purposes, it is literally an energy. It is a concentrated form of life force energy from source. We're talking about the God essence that drops down through the dimensions, talking 12D through the dimensions, and then it literally stays dormant at the base of your spine until it is ready to be activated. And it has to be a certain amount of charge that is built first in order to that to happen. It's not an automatic, okay? And let's see, was there anything else I wanted to say? Yeah, it is the creative current of the universe. It's the most potent charge there is that can exist in a human body. This is powerful, powerful stuff. And the purpose of it, I believe, divinely ordained, divinely orchestrated, divinely sent down in order to make sure that in this realm of illusions, we make it back into unity consciousness and back into the remembrance of who we truly are, one with the God in essence, okay? I'm not talking about the law of one beehive mentality. Completely different. This is not the counterfeit version. This is a divine version, okay? So, yeah. So what else did I want to say? Okay, it's Shakti energy. We need to talk about that. It's a good thing I have my notes. It's feminine energy. This is why it's called the feminine awakening. Not just the feminine awakening, the divine feminine awakening. And to be honest, there are some who think that this awakening is demonic, that it's, oh my God, it's creating all this chaos and catastrophe. Like they're like, oh my God, this serpent energy, this Kundalini energy, this Shakti energy, this sexual energy is evil, it's demonic. Let me remind you before I continue, and maybe this is not for you, but for you to share with others who question Kundalini activation, is that feminine energy creates, it also destroys, it transforms, it rebuilds, it recreates. So it's about the whole cycle, the whole rebirth cycle. And that's what life is about. That is what its creation is about. If you want to create a new, you destroy the old, you move forward, and you create a new. That is what rebirth and resurrection is all about. That is feminine energy, which fuels that process. So that's why a Kundalini activation can feel a little bit chaotic. Anyways, that's a little bit of a side. I felt that was really, really important to mention. So there are a lot of different ways that the Kundalini energy can be activated. It could be through a guru. It could be by being in somebody else's field, and then you're activated because you attune to the higher frequency. Most often, or at least if you're here, you are activated through somebody else, through what you might call a divine counterpart. I like to call it a divine connection. And I'll explain a little bit later why I call it that at this point, okay? And when you experience this activation, let me just see okay, what is a Kundalini activation? Let me just make sure okay, so the fire energy comes down, you get sufficient charge. Okay, Kundalini activation. What is it? It's literally when you have built up enough charge of this energy, of this Kundalini energy. Call it Shakti energy, call it sexual energy, call it Kundalini energy. It's pure, raw sexual energy. The energy of transformation. It means that all of a sudden you're triggered. What was once dormant now is triggered. So what happens, and this is what, if you're here, what happened when you met your first or your current or your lasting divine counterpart, your system was flooded with pure raw sexual energy, intense, fiery, transformative, and it felt absolutely beautifully amazing. At least I know it did for me, because what's happening there is that because this is a concentrated life force energy of source energy, of the God essence, and it's flooding your system, you are experiencing a remembrance of your oneness with the God essence, unity consciousness, unconditional love, and you're experiencing it through this other person. At least that's what it feels like. And that's what's known as the bubble up phase, flooding the system, flooding the system. And the reason the system is flooded with this energy in the way that it is to make sure that you are fully and properly activated and motivated to begin this journey of spiritual ascension back into sacred union. And like I said, I'll talk further about that as we go along. So that is what the Kundalini activation is. It is activating not the next relationship. The primary purpose is to activate your spiritual ascension. Now, you may have already been on a spiritual journey for quite some time. I know I was spiritually awakened for about 17 years before I met my divine connection, the first one. And wow, okay, this just takes it deeper. This takes it deep, okay? So it floods the lower chakras especially, because you know that sexual energy feels like lust on crack. Woohoo! Okay, bubble up phase. What's the purpose? Spiritual ascension, as I said, it's to help you remember who you truly are, where you came from before all these illusions, these veils were put there and all the trauma overlays. It's the truth of the God essence of source, true source, divine source. So literally, after the bubble up phase, what happens is the energy does what it's meant to do. This fiery energy is about transformation. It's going to burn through your system and start to burn away demonic thoughts, going to start lighting fires, lower vibrational frequencies attached to lower frequency emotions, belief systems, and your divine connection acts as a mirror for all your unhealed trauma, your projected pain, and the unhealthy patterns that you have developed throughout your life. Now, if you've been spiritually awakened for some time now and you've already addressed some of your shadows, this is only going to take you deeper into your shadows. So, it's going to have you look again at core wounds of rejection, abandonment, betrayal. And what's connected to this are feelings of unworthiness, not being enough, inadequacy, helplessness, feeling disempowered. And this is the biggie right here, shame. Because on some level, if you're here and you've been activated on a twin flame spiritual ascension journey, on some deep level, you feel that you are inherently flawed and broken. And you may not feel that consciously, yet that is what this Kundalini energy is meant to do, is to have you dig deeper. And first up, it's going to go on a personal level, then it's ancestral, then it's going to be planetary, and then it's going to be galactic. I mean, you're going to hit it all depending on what you've been encoded for or coded for in this lifetime. Okay, so let's see. Initially, the patterns that are going to be mirrored to you are going to be anything around attachment. That's where attachment theory comes in. Codependency, obviously, trauma bonding, and what that is all about. Intensity, that doesn't necessarily correlate with intimacy. That's something that you're going to learn about. Self-judgment, projection, the fear of intimacy. This is where you begin to reparent your inner child, because you start to see all the patterns, and then you are drawn to different mentors, tools, insights, techniques, strategies to begin to disrupt those patterns. So there's a lot of regulation that needs to happen with the nervous system. And the transformation begins with the emotional, the physical, and the mental bodies. Okay, so essentially, the purpose of Kundalini energy is to heal, to ascend, or to elevate in frequency. We're not really moving up. It's not hierarchical yet. It's you're changing bandwidth. Think of the map of the scale of consciousness that David Hawkins came up with, or rediscovered, probably through a divine download. Is you will, what was I saying? You restore memory. It's about restoration ultimately. Healing, clearing, and restoration, I guess, is what I wanted to say. Now, here's the kind of cool part. It is cool, is that every time you clear something away and you're ready to go to the next frequency bandwidth, you are going to have more of your cellular memory is going to be unlocked. So literally each dimensional level holds within it, a cellular memory. And that's why you increase in your level of awareness, you increase in your level of consciousness, you become more embodied as far as more of that source energy that's literally becoming part of who you are. So there's a lot of nervous system calibration on this journey. In fact, the map, a scale of consciousness, and the chakras and the dimensions, they all correlate. Okay, so, and that's where the divine downloads come in. This is where you start to become more and more of your inner authority, and you become more discerning, and you're able to see more truth, like the true reality. You'll be able to move away all those trauma overlays and those veils of illusion and see more of who you are and others, and the truth of reality. Okay. I feel like I have to mention, why does it feel like sometimes you feel like you're regressing on the journey? Like, I know I definitely had felt that at times where, oh my God, I thought I was done with this. First of all, we know that it's spiral. It's not linear. You're healing. However, every time you elevate, right before you elevate or you make a major shift or transition into higher frequency bandwidth, there's going to be a lot of clearing. There's going to be a lot of clearing. It's like this big storm that comes in, moves out all that dense energy, washes it away, however that's going to look for you. So then there's the space and there's the opportunity to embody more of the higher frequencies. And it's literally electricity, it's energy. How much can your system hold? And that's why it's got to really be cleared out before you get to that next level. So I know for, wow, did I do all this already or did I miss something? No. Oh, wow, look at that. I'm going to let you know is that I'm just going to give an example of before I talk about sacred union and I wrap this up. There are some who believe that, and I know I've referred to this already, that Kundalini energy is demonic in nature. And I get it. The whole, oh my God, 666, the snake. Well, first of all, there is a counterfeit version and there's a divine version. Okay, with absolutely everything. And that includes the twin flame journey. So if you think about it, okay, first of all, Kundalini energy is a gift. It dropped down from God consciousness, literally into the base of your spine as a tool to awaken you, to heal, to clear, and restore. It's represented as a snake because a snake sheds its skin. That is a symbol of transformation. A snake is coiled, okay? It doesn't go up straight up, okay? It spirals. Yet, and when a snake rises and elevates, okay, that it's about consciousness and awareness and expansion. And it makes its way through the chakras. Again, remember the chakras represent different level or correlate with different levels of consciousness. Remember, it's not all linear. Like you might dip back down. It doesn't mean that you have lowered back into a lower frequency as your core frequency. It just means, okay, there's something there that's connected to this level. Let's just go back there and get it and clear it out. So I just want to make sure I make that very, very clear. And because Kundalini energy is pure sexual energy, it's fiery. Fire burns. It burns away anything which is not truth. That's essentially what it does. It's kind of like a forest fire, right? For natural forest fires happen to burn old growth and to allow for rebirth and renewal and new growth in the forest. This is the same thing. Because it is feminine energy, it is Shakti energy, okay, it has been on some level demonized, okay? It's anything but. Yes, will your demons pop up? Let's talk quickly about that. Demons, literally, for me, it's just collective belief systems and negativity and lower vibrational frequencies and emotions and energies that are just coming to the surface to be released. And at first it'll feel like it's an outside attack, psychic attack, spiritual warfare. And then eventually you'll realize, oh, wow, that's just me healing all those overlays. So I'm healing like a person, like when I say I am, I'm saying in general, you could be saying I'm healing personal, ancestral, planetary, galactic. Okay, so yeah, it's gonna get a little, uncomfortable, and yet the rewards are worth it, I believe. Okay, so finally, what is sacred union? I know initially I thought, oh, it means I come into physical reunion with my twin flame. And this is why I now call a connection like this. I don't call it my twin. I don't call this person my twin flame because they're not my twin flame. I don't call this person I was connected to a false twin flame because I think that's erroneous too. It doesn't truly explain what's going on and what is the purpose of this whole Kundalini activation and this twin flame journey. Sacred union is exactly what it says. It's reuniting with the God source. Unity consciousness, balance, harmony, coherence. It's the embodiment of heaven on earth. How much of the God essence can you embody in a human template? And the nervous system needs to recalibrate in order to have the capacity to embody more and more of that. And there's different coding for different people, even on the twin flame ascension path. It is a journey, twin flame journey. You are activated. This person you met, whether you're with them now or not, connected with them, and you'll always be connected with them, by the way. They activated you. And I have Sweet Spot Soul also here on YouTube to thank for that. All right, she really helped me to understand my personal journey so that I could fully and finally surrender to my divine connection. I grew tremendously, and I'll always be grateful, and I'll always love this counterpart, yet it's a connection, and it's time for the next activator. And that may or may not be the case for you. And this may trigger you, but I feel like I'm dropping these seeds here. Sacred union. Okay. If you're coded for it, you will eventually come into physical union, likely with somebody, may not be that first, quote unquote, divine counterpart that you met. Or it could be, and you're just going to go through those stages of activating each other. Coming in and out, activating each other, and then elevating together. Every journey is distinctly unique. Yet the focus is about you and your ascension. If somebody else, or when somebody else comes in there, because likely if you're with me, it's a when, not an if, but a when, because there are solo journeys. There will be somebody else who comes in to make sure that you get to that next level where you actually get to practice that and you learn how to be intimate by relating with somebody else. You learn to be intimate with yourself first. I'm great at helping people to do that, whether they're in physical reunion or not at this point with a divine counterpart, because there is a need. Self-intimacy, self-devotion, all of it. And then that next step, okay, let's take that and do it relationally. Okay, so just like to remind you about that 40-day sexual shame detox once again, grab the link in the description. If you have any comments, questions, keep it kind, drop that in the comments. Drop me a like, subscribe, share. Let's support each other on this journey, especially if you've had a connection, you've been in prolonged separation, you know you've been activated, there's a lot of confusion, and you may still maybe you even want to walk away. You can't walk away from a twin flame journey. You can walk away from who you thought was your twin flame, which is just the first aspect, the first activator. Okay. Yet you coded, you don't walk away from this journey. You might think you do, but you don't. I thought that. You don't walk away. I love you so much. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Again, this, by the way, is the part 1 of a 3-part series that I had recorded a few months back. So be sure to watch those follow-up ones. I'm going to link those in the video here. The sexual misery programs on the planet, how your sexual energy has been hijacked. You clearly probably already know if you're here. And then finally, just how problematic and intensive a challenge it can be if you were sexually traumatized before the age of 7. So make sure you check out those videos as well. Subscribe, and I'll be back soon. Much love.